What are some examples of that, a want and a why that maybe don't quite make sense? So let's say, for example, and I see this a lot, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with it, but the example is starting. Let's say you're launching a product in a Salesforce for your startup, and you've got one main requirement, and that is that the candidate must have contacts and relationships in the space. And again, nothing wrong with that, but what if you are pulling candidates that are currently from or looking for candidates that are currently in a company culture and day in the life role that doesn't really align with your company culture and your role? If it's vastly different, that candidate may not be happy in your company culture and in your role. So it's okay to have your must haves, but then dig a little bit deeper to make sure that they're actually going to make sense so that you have the long term fit. So that's one example. Another example would be veering away from the process that your structured process that you and your team design based on a gut feeling that, and I've seen this happen before too, and I've seen it backfire multiple times, where you really like this candidate, maybe you and the candidate have something in common and you just feel strong in your gut that they're who you want to go with, and so you abandon the process and start to think just with that gut lens rather than that structured process lens. And you want to implement both, but you don't want to veer away from your structure. So you want to make sure that company culture is aligned for the candidate, the day in the life of the role is aligned for the candidate, and that you're sticking to your process. Now it's okay to pivot and adjust here and there, maybe combine some steps as needed, but you don't want to abandon your process and rush through, because this is what leads to costly bad hires. So when I say communication, what am I talking about? Communication with whom? Well, you want to have strong communication with your leadership team so that everybody is staying aligned with potential hesitations that they see in a candidate, how to address those, sharing your feedback, sharing your green lights, and this way your confidence elevates as you move the ideal candidate through the process. Also, clear and consistent communication with the candidate. And so this way, the story that they're hearing about the opportunity is true. And so this way they're more likely to stay if they do accept the role. Because if anything changes, anything major changes in the role after an employee accepts, well, that major change could be a deal breaker for them. And so this is another thing that leads to turnover.